Welcome to a very special episode of Bucket List Coach Web Show Live, the Aviation Addiction. This is amazing, guys. So let's get on it.
I guess I didn't really get into it. It's all I remember. We clear over there?
Yep.
I'm fourth generation. My family's been in aviation, so growing up, I've just been mechanical. My mom can tell stories about my brother and I tearing apart everything, sewing machines, VCRs, whatever, to gather parts and build whatever we were building. It's taking old, mating it with some new technology and just showing, what can be done. Aviation has got all of those facets.
Walk it in slow.
And I just knew
There we go.
that's probably the path I was going to take. With the Jet Waco, you've got obviously the two power plants. You've got that radial engine to get that beautiful sound. It was designed and built, to go 125 miles an hour. So being able to take it to 250 plus miles an hour is quite a feat. The two totally different power plants, the two different distinct sounds, those harmonics that click in my brain. Every time you fly it, it's pretty special, I think. The airplane is an extension of your body. That freedom of being up in the sky, ripping a big loop and coming back around and seeing that three-dimensional picture you've just drawn. It's amazing to be able to have an aircraft that's capable of that. But for me, it's all about inspiring the next generation and show them hey, look at what you can do with some good old elbow grease, right? And one simple thought. If you believe it, you can build it.
Wow, that is one beautiful plane. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about this podcast. So I am a aviation geek. I am originally from Northern California. I now live near Huntington Beach, and I grew up near Travis Air Force Base. And I was the only teenager who got excited about those big C-5s flying over. And in the 80s, I actually ended up working for the Navy on a submarine, and that very month is when Top Gun came out. And that is when I just got crazy for the F-14 Tomcat, baby. So everything aviation, I've had this show since 2017. So life is short. You want to make the most of the dash. You want to live your aviation bucket list and definitely your travel bucket list. So I have Jarrod, and a big shout out to Yak 110. And one of my big sayings is Yak 110 coming hot. So now I'm going to have to change it to this airplane as well. So let's talk all about your aviation story.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. But it's great to be here and talking with you. And I guess I can jump right in and my aviation story. So I guess that starts. I come from a aviation family, so I'm actually a fourth generation aviator. So I was immersed in it from an early age and born into it, and I was just mesmerized from day one, I guess you'd say. Loved everything aviation and airplanes, and was born in the early 80s, or 81. So I think I do remember when Top Gun first came out. I believe it was at 86.
86, yeah.
86. I do remember that, and growing up watching, that movie. It's just a million times. I mean, it's a classic movie, and some of the anything aviation I could find, to watch and dive into was what I was all about as a kid. Building things, and flying, watching dad and uncle. We had grew up in rural North Dakota on a farm, so we were in agriculture, and my family was primarily ag aviation. So we grew up crop dusting, crop spraying, and just all that good stuff. Great flying. I mean, a lot of rich history there as well. And a lot of that, there's a lot of synergies between that and ultimately, that path, I think, really played a role in driving me and creating a skill set into the air show flying, with the close proximity to the ground and obstacles and being aware of all that stuff. The crop dusting, it's a vital role in aviation in my journey, because you're always working in, close proximity to whether it be trees or wires or towers. I mean, you really have to keep your head on a pivot and know where you're at. And same thing with flying air shows around the country. I mean, you're always at a different venue, and airports have AWAS towers and a lot of obstacles out there too. So aviation's been my home for my entire life. So I mean, I've enjoyed it, and I'm blessed to be here and where I currently am, and love being able to perform in front of crowds now and give back to the community and hopefully inspire some people.
So let's talk about the engine in this beautiful plane.
Yeah, so two unique power plants. The radial engine is a 9-cylinder Pratt & Whitney. It's been just a workhorse, a staple in the industry for years. Designed in the 40s, and it's been on a ton of airplanes over the years, and still widely used. A lot of the Alaska guys use it in Beach 18s, Beavers. Some of the egg guys used it years ago, but kind of being phased out now. More of the turbine world is kind of taken over in agricultural aviation as well, but still a lot of airplanes out there that use it. Great engine, sounds beautiful. Match that up with the wonderful 3-bladed Hartzell propeller I'm running. It's got a unique, crisp sound, when you get it wound up, and it's just music to my ears, of course. Mm-hmm. And it's got something special, the addition of a jet engine strapped underneath in between the landing gear under the fuselage. So it's a Learjet engine, CJ610, what you'd find on like a Lear 24 or 5, or in the military world, they call it a J85. And it's been on a lot of aircraft and still being used today with some of the T-38s, F5s, stuff like that. And that's got the wonderful thrust blasting out the tail end that allows us to do some pretty cool stuff. And it's got that awesome turbojet noise, that ear splitting noise. So it's a great combo for air shows.
Well, it's music to my ears, that's for sure. And so how long have you been doing the Pacific Air Show?
So I have been, this will just be my second year. So I was at the Pacific Air Show last year, and this is my second year of attending. So what a fantastic, wonderful air show. I can't say anything but great things about it. It's been a blast. I'm really excited to be heading back out there shortly.
Let's talk about the maintainers, how important they are to this industry.
Yeah, so aircraft maintenance is a huge deal, of course, with everything, from building and maintaining the aircraft. Everybody runs their operations a little different. There's some guys out there that have, large crew for their air show team, if you will, with a crew chief, maintenance, someone that's responsible for maintenance. I've wore that hat growing up and been a little bit of, my own maintenance guy here and there. I work with my brother a lot. We run a aircraft maintenance shop. We have been in maintenance for our whole lives as well. So when we go out on the road, I've had some great people along the way helping me. Sometimes it's just been myself and my wife Danielle that have actually built the plane and disassembled and do everything on the road. But I've also used some other great friends that have taught me everything about the Jet Waco, and one of them was one of the original builders of the Jet Waco is a great friend of mine. We were just on the phone here a couple hours ago today, Del Collar. So Del has been instrumental in helping me transition into the Waco and teaching me everything about it and working on it, and just such a fantastic guy. If you know Del, he's sometimes a man of few words, but he's thinking all the time, and he's a great maintenance asset to this program, and really got it up and running and worked along with another great friend, Jeff Bourbon and John Klatt. Yeah, Jeff, of course, Jeff, and can't forget about retired Lieutenant Colonel John Klatt, who was another air show legend, and he's ultimately how I got into the Jet Waco. We were flying a show. I believe it was one of my hometown shows here in Fargo, North Dakota, and I was flying another fantastic airplane that we own and operate, my brother and I. It's Red Baron. Remember the original Red Baron squadron? The
Oh yeah,
formations?
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Stearman. So when they disbanded in 2007 was their last season. In 2008, they had an auction, and we were fortunate enough to be able to purchase one of the original planes in pieces, and we restored it back to original and fly some mostly more local shows. You know, we've had it a couple states away here and there, but more of a tri-state area, if you will, or been on the other side of Chicago and Oshkosh area. But I was flying that airplane at a show in Fargo, and John, I think the team was there with the Jet Waco, and kind of got talking, and one thing led to another, I guess. And John at one point decided to retire, and was looking for somebody to kind of take over, and everything fit, and here we are. I guess, as they say, the rest is history. And as a child, I should back up and say, as a child, and maybe in high school when I was younger, one of my favorite performers was Jimmy Franklin, the late great Jimmy Franklin. So Jimmy flew a Waco, a different model Waco, and in the late 90s, he had the idea and put the jet engine on. So Jimmy Franklin pioneered this idea, and what a great, fantastic idea it was. And unfortunately, we lost Jimmy to a midair in, I think, 2004, but I saw him perform a few times, and one of the first times was in Fargo, and I'm like, it just clicked with me, and I'm like, yeah, someday I'm going to own an airplane like that or build one, whatever it takes. And it just, here it is, I'm here. So I'm kind of living my dream.
So that's been a dream of yours since you're a kid, to have a plane like this?
Yeah, absolutely. The first time I saw Jimmy fly, even with his Waco, I've loved biplanes, radial engines, open cockpit, it checks all the boxes for me. That golden era of barnstorming and just a really, really fantastic airplane. Wacos are fabulous machines. And I've also been kind of a wild man, if you will, with cars and dirt bikes and snowmobiles, and I was hot rodding everything. So the addition of the jet engine is even better for me. I mean, I love it. You can never have enough power, right?
Oh, there you see guys right there. Is that from last year?
Yep.
Or is that the Oshkosh?
So that was that's actually that's Oshkosh there, but some of that footage was, I think, right here at my home field, and then Fargo, and then that's Oshkosh.
Wow, that's amazing. But yeah, that's my aviation dream, to be a pilot. I'm a little older now. I'm almost 60 years old, 58 years old. And I actually met this gentleman about a year and a half ago. His son was a Thunderbird and passed away in a maneuver. And so they actually have a whole new brand that's actually teaching young kids to get out in a plane and learn to fly. So I'm actually going to get on one of them as well. So it's always been my dream. But what I do, especially for the military, I'm paying it forward to all the aviators of the military, and just sharing what they love. And it's all done through this show. It's just so amazing.
Very cool.
So what is something that people need to know if they want to be a pilot? Are you a commercial pilot as well, or you just have this one?
Yeah, so I'm commercially rated, I guess, commercial pilot, but I don't fly airlines or anything like that. Years ago, I did a little bit of charter and some cargo stuff here and there, mostly personal. Now we've had multiple airplanes, and like my family, we've bought and sold and restore airplanes, and we're always building and working on something and working on other people's maintaining stuff. It's just a little bit of everything. I love kind of going back to the classic stuff, if you would, and just doing stuff unique and different is really fun for me.
And let's talk about the upcoming air show.
Yeah, so the Pacific show is coming up next week. I guess I'll be heading that way to West Coast and coming in. And as the Jet Waco, some people may or may not know that we disassemble this aircraft and load it up into a semi-trailer. So we truck it across the country and go to the air shows, and then we pull it out and build it up and fly the show and take it apart again and go to the next one. So we're heading out there next week to set up for that, and couldn't be more excited. It's already, I think it's the first day of fall here, and it's a little bit cool today, but it'd be nice to get back to some warm weather for a change. And what a beautiful location and backdrop, with the ocean there, and that Huntington Beach is fantastic. So I'm really excited.
Yes, and it's definitely was on my aviation bucket list. And I met Jeff, like I was telling you earlier, in Sacramento, I believe in 2017 when he did the debut of the Yak 110.
Okay.
I told myself, I really want to get him on my podcast. I'll become his Facebook friend. Maybe I'll get him on my podcast. And I think he's been on like 3 or 4 times, and absolutely amazing. And just to be a part of this whole industry and to interview you with just seeing all the love that you have for aviation, it just really makes my day. I mean, aviation is a huge part of my life, and I never was able to be a pilot, but I'm actually living through all of you guys and gals. So it's really cool. For somebody who wants to have an airplane or learn how to fly, what are your tips on overcoming that fear? Because there's a little bit of fear involved in it.
Yeah. I guess everybody's a little different. There definitely can be. It's just one of those things that you just got to get yourself, talk to some friends and people that are already currently flying, and get you in the plane. Go for an introductory flight. Make sure with a good friend or family or reputable company, and take that first intro flight, and you're gonna know probably pretty fast if it's gonna click or not. And you're gonna love it. Most likely, you're gonna love it. And just start the journey. There's a lot of great flight schools out there, a lot of great people that can mentor and lead you on your way. And it's just one of those things where you don't want to overthink it. You just want to jump in there and find a good flight school local to you, and take an intro flight, and the rest will work its way out. It definitely seems like a lot of people I've come in contact with over the years, their stories are simple as that. They wanted to do it. They jumped in and they started. They love it.
Wow. So do you ever do rides for podcasters, or is that just a one-person cockpit?
So the Waco is just a one seat. Unfortunately, I would love to be able to have another seat in there. It was actually designed. I mean, we could put a seat in there, but it would be restructuring and doing different things. And right now we've got fuel tanks and all that good stuff in there. But it's really purpose built for one thing. We've got, like I said, our Stearman. That's a 2-seat machine. So I give a lot of rides in the Stearman. Great airplane. We've got some other biplanes, some Pitts, historic Pitts biplanes. So we give rides in those.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it just depends on, I'm actually starting a ride program within my company, AEROSPORTS. So we were at the Yellowstone International Air Show here this summer in Montana. And we kind of, that was kind of our first big deal we did there, and we'll be kind of unveiling a video off of that here soon. But we worked with a local nonprofit and VNN, it was called, the Veterans Navigation Network out there for military, and we found a really great family and a person. He's become a great friend of mine now, and got to meet him. And he was, a couple tours, and he was deployed over there multiple times and home now. And just, we really want to, like you were talking, pay it forward, give it back, and I was never in the military. That kind of was my plan from when I was a young kid. I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be, a fighter pilot, I suppose, just like Top Gun. And unfortunately, things just changed in my direction in life, and ended up staying home and taking over the family business and stuff. But I've always had that drive in the back of my mind, what can I do to get involved with military, and how can I help? And this is something finally that's working out for me, and being able to take another ride plane around to these air shows and work with some local chapters and nonprofits to be able to identify some really great people and help them tell their story, which will then, once again, inspire somebody else to get involved and pay it forward. And that's kind of the plan on that. So we went flying, and it really opened up, and we got to know each other, and now we're taking it, a step more and going larger and larger with it.
That's amazing. Well, a good friend of mine, Dick, he's over at the Oshkosh. So let's talk about Oshkosh, because that usually happens actually the weekend of my birthday, at the end of July. It's a whole week of aviation.
Oh yeah.
I think close to 1,000 airplanes in 1 week. Let's kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Oshkosh, EAA AirVenture. I mean, is so unique and unlike anything else out there. I mean, it's just the largest gathering of planes and aviation enthusiasts, in the world. I mean, it's just such a rich heritage, history there. I mean, it's hard sometimes to even put it into words. It's magical, It's just such a beautiful venue and place, and the camaraderie and the people that you meet. I mean, what a fantastic. If you haven't been, you have to go.
Definitely.
You gotta go.
And I believe they have one day that's women aviators, and they have another day where they actually show Top Gun. I believe they just started doing that this year. So absolutely amazing. But the issue is you need to get your place literally about 2 to 3 years in advance, because that whole area just like fills up. Not unless you have an RV, then that would be, really great for your little RV bucket list. But it's definitely one that I want to check off my list for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of camping. A lot of people just throw tents up and, you can go for the day. But I mean, it's too much, to do in one day. You got to spend a couple days and go back multiple years. You'll just, you can't do it all in one week,
So what does RAD mean to you?
So RAD, I'm an 80s guy, 80s kid, of course, 80s, 90s, and just something different, and unique. And I kind of ran with the notion that it didn't have to mean anything, but it did, so we've kind of been back and forth on that a few times. And, everybody, this airplane, I mean, what a great airplane. It's a RAD airplane. I mean, it does rad tricks and all that good stuff. But it really stands for redefining aviation dreams is where I went with it. And it's just all about inspiring people of all ages, not just kids. I love connecting with kids and seeing that magic light up in their eyes, and someday, learning that, hey, they watched you inspired them, and they went out and did the same thing or became a pilot. That's really cool. But I mean, even people at 50, 60, I mean, we've run into those people too. They wanted to fly their entire life, never did, worked their whole life and retired and went out and did it. So that's really cool too. So it's just all ages. I don't want to box one,
But a lot of people actually get really upset when there's an air show in their city and they see all the planes, flying over. I get excited. I like the smell of jet fuel. I mean, that's, like I said, growing up in Travis Air Force Base. And I actually didn't even start going to air shows until I first seen Jeff. And did you ever meet the guy who was in that jet truck semi?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, so you got to race with him?
I personally did not, but I was the part of a couple of shows where I think Dell raced him up in Grand Forks at the Air Force Base last year. Yeah, one of his last performances too, So
yeah, I was really devastated when I heard about his accident. But
yeah, great
really
guy.
Got my blood pumping for this whole mission of what I do for aviation. So
yeah, for sure.
Yep. So we have about 5 minutes left. Let's talk about your socials, and then let's go to shout outs.
Okay. So we've got most of my stuff, I guess, is Instagram. So we're at Rad AEROSPORTS is Instagram. And we've got Facebook, of course, and webpage, RadAerosports.com. So you can find us on there and watch for updates and everything. And we're still I revamped my webpage, and that's kind of one of those things that you're never done doing. So, I mean, come back and look often, because we got a lot of cool stuff we're doing and changing. And like I talked about the Rad Riders, that program that we're going to be unveiling. Hopefully that'll be larger. We've kind of joined up. We're working with the Gary Sinise Foundation. So that's
very nice. Yes.
Really cool. And we're excited about that. And hopefully we'll be able to get out there and raise awareness and get some donations coming in and do some good with it. But that's all that good stuff. And I've got some really exciting stuff in the works. I'm trying to do things and always tweaking and changing and rebuilding. And I don't want to say too much yet, but in the future we might be doing some pretty cool stuff and different, but you never know. I got to keep people guessing.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I want to do a shout out to the Gary Sinise Foundation as well. Actually, the Top Gun restaurant there in San Diego, they just had their 40th anniversary a few months ago, and I actually got lucky enough to be invited to that on the Midway. And I met the gentleman who's in charge of the San Diego area. So I just wanted to do a shout out to that. And of course, Yak 110 coming hot. Woohoo! Pilot Jeff, you are awesome. And oh my God, Jarrod, this has been an amazing interview. And I just cannot wait to see what we can do here further. And actually coming up in November, if you want to come on the podcast, maybe come on with Jeff if you're both available to celebrate aviation history. So let's talk about that in closing. So we have a few more minutes. How do you feel about aviation history, how that's changed to where you're at right now?
I mean, it's aviation history is, I mean, I could probably talk on it for forever, but I mean, it's so cool. I do see, you know, like just with it's kind of the, I don't know if it's the norm or not, but what's changing, you know, it's just, it really strikes a bell with me too, you know, just with the World War II, you know, that great era and all those people, pilots and everything, you know, we're right on the cusp of the last, you know, alive World War II people out there. And, you know, keeping that history alive is so important in these museums and everything like that. And the more that you're looking at our screens, you know, and our phones and our kids and computers, it's like, gosh, you know, there's a lot of information there and you can find a lot of that stuff. But I mean, there's nothing like getting outdoors and climbing around and, you know, smelling those airplanes and seeing that sight and sound and vision. I mean, we got to really work hard on teaching the history and where we've come from. I feel like some of it's being lost, you know. It's just, I really hope not. But I mean, a lot of people take things for granted on where we're at, and, you know, in this cancel culture that we're in, unfortunately, it's like, you know, history happened, you know, we need to talk about it. And aviation history is a big, you know, big part of it with everything.
Yeah. So in that, I'm actually going to share Chino. We actually have Planes of Fame. It's a great museum there. Also, there's one in Torrance, and there is a F-14 in Torrance. Also, Line Air Museum right here in our backyard over at Santa Ana. Absolutely amazing museum. And of course, out in San Diego, the Midway, baby. Those are some of my favorites. What are some of your favorites, either in the area or where you live? And we'll close out.
Yeah, so we've got some really great museums here in North Dakota, actually. So we've got the Fargo Air Museum. They're doing a great job up there. And then up in Minot, up on the north side of North Dakota, there's a fantastic museum up there, Dakota Territory Air Museum, with Warren Peach, and those guys do a great job. A lot of warbirds and really cool stuff. And they've traveled around the country for years, and a lot of cool planes up there. They're great. And then, of course, Pensacola. I love that. Rich naval history down there. That's great.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, a shout out to the F-14 podcast over on Instagram. And one last time, shout out to your socials, and we will pop you back in the green room.
All right, sounds great.
Go ahead and pop your socials.
Oh yeah, RadAerosports.com and at RadAerosports for Instagram.
And the last question I always ask, what will you do here in the next couple weeks to pay it forward to a random actor, stranger? Like, how are you going to pay it forward to a complete stranger?
Good question. Probably, honestly, it would probably be given an airplane ride. You know, it seems like I'm always connecting that way with people, and that's usually what we're doing most days. So definitely, I love finding people that are unexpecting it or aren't begging for rides, and like, you know, hey, you want to go for a ride, you know? Then they just turn their day around.
Yes. For me, I think I will give a very lucky follower of either my show or your page an amazing aviation vacation in San Diego. So if you are a big fan of aviation, I will give you a ticket to the the Midway there, the USS Midway. So definitely one for your list. Or if you're here local and you don't want to head down to San Diego, I'll actually give you an entrance ticket to the Line Air Museum. So we are out. I'm going to pop you in the green room where I close. So we'll see you in a minute.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So make sure that you follow Rad Aerosports, of course. Pacific Air Show, baby. Woohoo! Coming up in a little over a week. And go out and make a difference. And take the time to learn a little bit more about aviation.